have everybody, and I think this is a very important gathering that we are preparing to say Tzeichem L'Shalom to a respected and beloved colleague, Dayan Shlomo Glicksberg, for the incredible contribution that he has made, him and his family have made over the last 6 years or so here in the community. And we're very grateful to them for everything that they've done, not only for the Yeshiva College campus, but also especially and of course in the Beis Din. And it's a time of where we bid farewell to a friend and to a colleague. And I think it's appropriate that we do so with proper appreciation, hakara satov, and with proper respect and love, and that's our gathering this morning. And so I've asked a number of colleagues to prepare some words of divrei bracha and divrei chizuk in recognition of Dayan Glikesberg, and I'm going to ask to begin with from his chaverim, the chavrei Beis Hadin, and I'm going to ask Dayanim to share some words. We'll start with Dayan Badil. I'd like to ask you, Dayan Badil, if you'll please say a few words.
Okay, thanks for the honor and privilege to be able to say a couple of words for our dear friend, as the Chief Rabbi said, for Dayan Glikesberg, Shlomo, as we all call him. I'd like to share with you, I once saw in the Sivat Shalom, he says a very interesting pshat in the Mishnah in Ovos, the famous Mishnah in Ovos, Chanin ben Daisa said, meaning if people have a liking to him, then Ruach HaMokim Noicha, then Rabbi Shlomo is happy with. So that's something which came to mind when I thought that we should say something with regards to our Rabbi Shlomo, that I think it's something which definitely, with absolute certainty, we know that it's Ruach HaBriyas Noicha, and therefore without the shadow of a doubt, we know it's Ruach HaMokim Noicha. Always, anything that had to be discussed or brought up, and always done in a way which was pleasant, and it wasn't done in an arrogant way. It was always the Ruach HaBriyas Noicha, and therefore people connected up to him. Wherever it came, different backgrounds and different people that we met up with and different discussions, and sometimes we had some strong discussions, but always you had this name alichais, Dipurai benachas im habriyas. It was always Dipurai benachas im habriyas, and that's something which was quite impressive, because sometimes we had some heated debates, and yet it was always the Ruach HaBriyas Noicha was always there. And besides the fact that Shlomo has contributed very much to the Beis Din with regards to the marriage authorizations, a complete shift in the way we did things, and Shemus Kittin. But I think besides everything else, it was this trait from beginning to end. It was always constantly with him, this Ruach HaBriyas Noicha. And I think that's something which we can take, even though we're going to miss Rabbi Shlomo very much. And a dear friend to one of us, and I speak on behalf of all my colleagues. But I think we're going to miss him, but I think this is something we can learn and continue to learn from him. This Ruach HaBriyas Noicha, and to how to deal with things. Whenever there is an issue, there's sticky issues that need to be dealt with, and there have been and there always will be, but then it's always to be done in the way that Ruach HaBriyas Noicha. So all I can say is that we wish Rabbi Shlomo much hatzlacha, bracha and hatzlacha, and as they say, what we're losing here is Eretz Yisrael's gain, but hopefully we'll keep the connection up, and we'll still be able to continue discussing certain issues, and please God, we should continue our relationship that was built up the past 6 years, and we just wish him much bracha and hatzlacha always. Please God.
Thank you, Dayan Badil. Thank you so much for sharing those words. Dayan Smith.
Rishus the Chief Rabbi, Dayanim, all the Rabbanim, and Rishus my Chaver of Shlomo. It's difficult to talk at these times. It's an emotional time, you know. He's been a very intrinsic part of the Beis Din, worked together for a few years, worked on many issues. And I just want to share with you a very short words. There's not, you know, we can't say all the praises, but at least just to say a little bit of the feelings of Reb Shlomo departing us. There's a Tshuvas Chasam Sofer in Droshes, not the Tshuvas, sorry, in Droshes Chasam Sofer, he says a pshat in the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says in Hilchas Tainus, in Siman Tov Kuf Pei, he says on Tes of Teves, on the days that we do fast, the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch is Lo noida ezi etzara she'ira boy. On Tes Teves, something happened to Klal Yisrael. We don't know what happened. If you look in the Magen Avraham says, he says in the Slichas, it says, it's Isa Shemes Ezra Sofer. That was the day that Ezra Sofer died. So the Chasam Sofer in his drosha says, is it so difficult for the Shulchan Aruch to chap that Tes Teves was the day Ezra Sofer died, and therefore why does he write, Lo noida ezi tzara she'ira boy? Interesting question. So the Droshes Chasam Sofer says, he says when you have a Talmud Chacham like Ezra Sofer, who Ezra Sofer was more, he was, besides his godless in Torah, he was a person who was there for the Klal. As we know, the Gemara says in Baba Kama, he's masakin many takonas. He says when that person gets lost to Klal Yisrael, we don't realize the effect of how much his loss is. And this is what I feel with Reb Shlomo departing us. You know, in last week's Seder, we learned about Yeshua, Isha Sheruach Boy, many pshatim. Aber Rashi's pshat stands out to me, and that says, Yodea lahalech neged rucha shel kol echad ve'echad. He knows how to deal with every single person with his right spirit. This is one of the great miles of Reb Shlomo. Besides his godless in Torah, his fascinating tshuvas, which he wrote, and his bekiyas, and his ga'inus in Torah. But besides that, he had that mahalach of leadership. He still has it. Isha sheruach bo yodea lahalech neged rucha shel kol echad ve'echad. And I feel with Reb Shlomo leaving us, this is a similar concept. Lo noida ezi tzara she'ira boy. We don't realize the gravity of the loss, not just for the Beis Din, for the whole community of South Africa. We're losing a Talmud Chacham of your stature. It's very difficult for us. And like Reb David said, it's a gain for Eretz Yisrael, but something which, you know, in this country, you've contributed a lot. And we wish you a bracha that the Metz Hashem, you should continue in your amazing derech in Torah and your amazing derech in leadership. And where you're going to in the Metz Hashem, you should be zoich b'marbit Torah and continue in your way. And the Metz Hashem will still be in touch. And I wish you all good.
Thank you, Dayan Smith. Dayan Fox, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much. As my colleagues have mentioned, it's a very difficult time. Saying goodbye in general is always a painful time, especially when the loss is going to be so poignant and so felt. More importantly, it's difficult because this is not the way that we should be saying goodbye. Ideally, we should never be saying goodbye, but it certainly shouldn't be by me pinning your video on my screen to be able to speak panim el panim. But that's the Ratzon of the Eibush at this moment in time. Unlike my colleagues, I haven't had the privilege of working with you for as long a time as I would have hoped. But certainly during that period of time, everything that they have mentioned is certainly clear as day. Your enoshiyut, your humanity, your interpersonal relatedness and relatability, and your prolific writing. I mean, I always felt bad you would send in your tshuvas, but I would need to take a semester off, to take a sabbatical to go through them. So what does one add when one's feeling such tremendous sense of loss for our community? And I think we're very privileged, and I think we as a community of Mizrahi a debt of gratitude that they had the foresight and the wisdom to bring a man of your caliber to our shores. You know, like everything in life, it is bittersweet. The sweet of it was the 6 years that we had. the bitter is that these things come to an end. But one of the things that stood out, if I can add to what has already been mentioned, is something that is very apt, given the parashas that we're reading and the parasha of Maseh. Because the parasha of Maseh, as you know, I certainly don't need to be expanding it to you, but is the source, according to the Ramban, of mitzvahs Yishuv Haaretz. And if there was one thing that certainly punctuated all the joy that was evident in your working with the Beis Din, in your service of the community, in your archiving skills and documentary skills, one thing was noticeable, and it reminded me of the Sifri, where the Sifri tells about Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseder, Rabbi Masya ben Chorosh, and a few others, and they were leaving Eretz Yisrael, and they reached a point and they remembered Eretz Yisrael. That their eyes, they shed tears about the fact that they had left Eretz Yisrael. And I always felt that there was an unseen tear, certainly in your eye, and from what I gather your Rebbitzins as well, about with all the majesty of what you were accomplishing in Admas Bnei. Nevertheless, there was a tremendous sense of loss, of wanting to be on Admas Kodesh in Eretz Yisrael. And your dream is finally being realized. And we know that this is something that we all yearn for, we all pine for. You know, if I recall, the Chassam Sofer has a tshuva, 2 tshuvas that deal with giving tzedakah to Eretz Yisrael. And he mentioned something there which, you know, if I don't want to say it could be debated, but in your instance, I don't think it could. And there he's discussing the Gemara in Kiddushin, where what is considered as Zeshekon HaChochma, etc. And he says, anybody who's living in Eretz Yisrael, you have to stand up. Mipnei Seva Takum, what's Mipnei Seva? Somebody is living in Eretz Yisrael. Because if he's living in Eretz Yisrael, he's Moleh B'Godesh with mitzvahs. So, in your instance, that certainly will be the case. That in Eretz Yisrael, you'll be Moleh B'Godesh with the mitzvahs, and mitzvahs Atluyas Ba'aretz, and general mitzvahs, and the most important mitzvah of Avas Yisrael, and the mitzvah of Limud HaTorah, which you do prolifically. I mean, the first year that you gave under lockdown reminded us, it was a very humbling moment. You asked how many Masechtas have I finished during the first time, short while of lockdown. And you clearly had finished Masechtas in lockdown. So you're going to have the Kedushas Haaretz, which means you're going to have Torahs Eretz Yisrael, which is a higher madrega. You're living your dream, and we wish you all the best for everything. We know that you're going to Alei V'Hatzlach. You're going to go from strength to strength. You're going to achieve great things. We hope that you don't forget us, the people of your past, and we look forward to sharing times together in Eretz Yisrael, and to be privileged to experience the beauty and the mellifluous nature of the Torah that you write so prolifically. So I wish you a Tzeichem L'Sholem. Mirz Hashem, we'll see each other in good health in Eretz Yisrael.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Fox. And now from the Cape Town Beth Din, because it's all, as we know, works together as one institution, one Beis Din with 2 branches in the 2 cities. And want to ask Dayan Matthew Liebenberg to share a few words on behalf of the Cape Beth Din and Cape Town Chaverim.
Thank you, Chief Rabbi, to the honored Dayanim and the Rabbonim, and of course to Rabbi Glicksberg, Dayan Glikesberg. It's always been a pleasure to be in communication with Rabbi Glicksberg. I called him numerous times about shilas, and on the phone he can go through with me numbers of shittas straight away off his head without looking in Svarim. His Bekias is incredible, his Eon is incredible, and the modest way in which he deals with people.
And I think that Rabbi Glicksberg is a person who probably thinks that everybody is holding in the same level of learning that he is. And he just speaks to you always as an equal. His Sforim are beautiful. And considering the fact that he came from Eretz Israel to South Africa, reminds me of the Amora Rav. It was a great Talmud Chochem, was the Talmud of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And he was coming to Babel. And the Gemara tells us in numerous places that the people in Babel, although they were quite observant, but they were Amaratzim. And Rav comes to a place without much Torah, without much mitzvahs. And the Gemara uses an expression, I believe it's in Eruvin, Rav Bika Matzah Begada Bageder. He found an open valley. He found a pirza. And when there's a bika, you have to put in a fence and you have to protect it. And so that's what he did. He comes to Babel. He comes to a place which is perhaps a little bit devoid of Torah compared to Eretz Israel. And he makes takonas and he makes enactments and he builds Torah in Chutz La'aretz, turning it into one of the greatest communities of all time. And so it is with Rabbi Glicksberg. Not that Rabbi Glicksberg came to South Africa, to Johannesburg, and found necessarily a bika. There was already a wonderful Makom Torah. But nevertheless, he brought some of that Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, some of that Torah's Eretz Yisrael, which is so unique, which is so all-encompassing. And I remember various occasions when I was in Eretz Yisrael that sometimes you would even get a halacha shir or a musa shmuz from a bus driver or from an army general, because the place is enthused and infused with Limudat Torah. So Rabbi Glicksberg was coming and he was bringing to South Africa this type of Torah, which we so much appreciated. And I also want to say a personal thank you to him. Various times that I was in his community on Shabbos, because we have relatives there, and when we come to Johannesburg, we often go to the Mizrahi Shul. Very warm welcome that I received. Unfortunately, I haven't been there for some time. And I just want to wish Rabbi Glicksberg and his Rebbitzin and his entire family much nachas hatzloch in their new position. It's a difficult time to take up a new position now that the world is such in quandary. But please God, just as you've had hatzlocha here, you should be matzliach there in future. And we wish you tzeitzchem l'shalom. And please God, we should be able to be together davening b'mhera b'yameinu in Yerushalayim.
Amen. Thank you very much. Dan Liebenberg. I'm going to ask now, he's a Korosh Koilel, Rabbi Levi Weinberg, as the Korosh Koilel of the Mizrahi Koilel, to share a few words.
Thank you.
Well, Rabbi Weinberg, I'm sorry, we can't really hear you. There seems to be a bad connection. Rabbi Weinberg, I don't know if you can find a better spot in terms of the connection. Otherwise, we'll come back to you in a moment. Okay, I'm going to ask Rabbi Weinberg. We'll come back to you. I'm going to ask Rabbi Chaikin, chairman of the association, to share some words in honor of Rabbi Glicksberg. Rabbi Weinberg, back to you.
Rabbi, Dan Galicksberg, Dayanim, Rabbonim. Always sad to say farewell, as Rabbi Fox mentioned, particularly under these circumstances. But it's been a privilege to have had your leadership, your guidance for the past 6 years here in Johannesburg in so many different aspects, and on the Yeshiva College campus, Rabbi, as a Dayan, as a Rabbi in the community, a member of the Rabbinical Association, on our executive, and now it comes a time where we're moving on. The day after we read in the Torah about the moving on of leadership from the greatest of all.
Rabbi Chaikin went on to mute there. Sorry, just unmute yourself. My apologies. I think that was my mistake. Rabbi Chaikin, you're on mute. Just to unmute it. I'm sorry, that was my mistake.
Yeah, no problem. I'm not sure at what point you lost me, but I won't start from the beginning again. Whatever it was. I was talking about that in yesterday's parsha we read about the takeover of leadership. Moshe Rabbeinu davening, asking the Eibishter to appoint a new leader. Asher yetzid lifneim, asher yovel lifneim. And what is the emphasis here is the lifneim, leadership being from the top. He's asking for a leader who's going to be there from the front. What is the big mile of leadership from the front? One who is facing forward and leading in that manner is that he's not forever turning around behind him to see whether the positions he's taking are popular. As the Gemara says in Shabbos of Kufyut Ches Beis, Rabbi Yossi says, I never had to say something, and as the Shalom explained, I never had to turn around to see if my position and what I had espoused was accepted by those who were behind me, if what I had proposed as a leader was correct, and it remained in that way and didn't have to have the popular following behind me. So that is the idea of leadership, lifneihem, ahead of them. We're probably all familiar with the Pshat in the Gemara Sanhedrin, that the pnei hader k'pnei kelev, and this is unfortunately in a Mile leadership which is sorely lacking. It has been beautiful to watch a leader who has led facing forward, who has been dynamic and forthright with the way he's led our people, and he's going to be sorely missed in the way that he doesn't look behind, but actually with tekifus and the sense that I don't want to use the word gevura because that doesn't describe Reb Shlomo in any way. And I've seen him in action, in various situations. And although there was takeoff, it was always utmost chesed, consideration for those with whom he was dealing. So we're losing a dear friend. I think the only person in South Africa that I know, maybe beyond, who's loved the last 3 months of lockdown. Every time we've spoken, it's been about which Masechtas is completed, and I think he started his quarantine well before with the kids coming back from Eretz Yisrael, and he had to remain at home, and there was no issue. There was this Masechta or that Teshuvah, etc., and he's maximized the time of this terrible period we're all going through for the growth of Torah, and hopefully he's going to leave us with some of this as he goes. The sadness of this time is also the beauty of this time, that we've discovered that physical distance can be easily breached via all these technologies that we now have, and we say it's goodbye physically, as you will no longer be, but the truth is within Eretz Yisrael on Zoom, or whether you're in Glen Hazel on Zoom, the distance is exactly the same. Physically we don't see each other. Hopefully the friendship, the chavashaf, the leadership, and the terror that you marbits will continue, and you'll not forget about our community here in Johannesburg, in South Africa. Hatzlacha, go forward with great strength.
Okay, thank you very much, Rabbi Chaikin. I'd like to ask Rabbi Zikri. We're getting voices from different parts of the country, and Rabbi Zikri has always worked very closely with the Beth Din over many years. And obviously, especially with Reb Shlomo in areas of Geirus and other things. So just ask Rabbi Zikri just to share just a few words.
Thank you, Gershut Rabbi Rashi, Dayanim, Chaverim. I indeed regard myself as saying farewell to a close friend. Rav Dayan, Rav Shlomo Glicksberg, spoke about, and I endorse everything that was said. It's very hard to have in few minutes, a farewell of this caliber of this person. But there are Shlosha Ktarim, as we know in Pirkei Avot, Shlosha Ktarim, the Keter Torah, Keter Malchut, Keter Kehuna, V'Shem Tov Ole Al Kulam. So there are some Mefarshim that says that the three Ktarim, although we know Kehuna, either you are born Kohen or not, Malchut, not everybody can be there. However, there is, even in our days, the ability to have these three Ktarim. The Keter Torah, obviously. Keter Kehuna, the Kohen was to be teaching Melamed Da'at Hashem, and Malchut, leadership, spiritual leadership. So these three Ktarim, Baruch Hashem, Rav Shlomo Glicksberg had them. And Shem Tov, as you can hear today, what we heard from the previous speakers, previous rabbis, that he is indeed with the great Shem Tov. There is a term in Hebrew describing a person of this caliber, and I don't know if there is a word in English for it, Ish Eshkolot. If you have any word in English for that, I looked, it says scholar. Scholar, it's not really Ish Eshkolot, a man of clusters. And that is the way that I will describe Rav Shlomo. He's a Rav, Dayan, doctor, academic. I mean, you just need to look at his publications, published in leading halachic works and institutions in Eretz Israel. I know of, I saw some of his work. He even touched something that close to my origin on research on the Hamidrasha HaGvoha LeLimudim Rabbanim in Morocco, the research on Rabbinical Seminary in Morocco in the 1950s, in science, ecology, and Jewish law, and we are talking among rabbis, so you know exactly what I'm referring to and how much he was involved in all spheres of halakha, obviously, in issues of culture, of history, all are, this is the eshkolot. And on the top of that, which not all, I can speak for myself, we are not all blessed with the additional privilege to have technology knowledge. So he had that as well. And he can work very comfortably with the new technologies that help the Beit Din, as has been mentioned. And finally, to look at the positions that he held in Eretz Israel and the one that has been offered to him, which I'm aware of through my discussions with Rav Shlomo, he was offered very high positions in Eretz Israel. And remember, Eretz Israel is, Baruch Hashem, full of candidates and rabbis, and to get there, these positions, you must really be in a very, very high level regarded as to be a candidate for these things. So the positions that he was offered and the position that he's going to have says a lot about the person that we are bidding farewell to. And as I said to him, that we hope that we've got Rabbi Moshe Kurztag in Eretz Israel as our kesher, and now we've got Rav Shlomo that he promised that he will continue the kesher with us. We need a representative in Eretz Israel. There is a lot that we depend on Eretz Israel, and if you have to phone, if you don't have the connection and you have to phone any department in Eretz Israel, it's not that simple. So to have Rabbi Shlomo there, it is a bracha. Alev ve'atzlach ve'be'ezrat Hashem nesiat tova. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi Zikri. Rabbi Dovi Goldstein has worked very closely with Dayan Glikesberg at in the kashrut department. Rabbi Dovi is going to share a few words, and we're coming very close to the end of our program this morning. And thank you all for being part of it and for showing proper kavod haTorah and kavod chaverim to come this morning and to participate. Rabbi Dovi.
Thank you, Chief Rabbi. Thank you, B'shus Chief Rabbi Dayanim Rabbonim. So over the last 4 years, I've had the great privilege of working with Rabbi Glicksberg. And I think one point which has not been mentioned is actually the Mesiras Nefesh that is put out in order to be here with us. Some of us are born here, some of us have to be here, some of us want to be here. But Dayan Glikesberg was always on a shlichus. He was always on a mission, and a mission which was hard because his family was not here. His family, in fact, was mostly in Eretz Yisrael and wanted to go back to Eretz Yisrael. And there was a great Mesiras Nefesh that he always had in being here. And what that translated into was that he made the most of every moment him being here. And I remember our early morning chat. Sometimes I'd come past you, Rabbi Glicksberg, in the Beis Din at 8:30, and we would sit and we'd schmooze, and you'd give me such a clear view on so many issues, which was such a blessing. And I just want to echo also my chaverim, my colleagues over here. In the beginning of that portion by Pinchas, Moshe Rabbeinu says, "You've got Hashem Elokei Aruchos," and says, "Lama ne'emar Omar Lefonav Ribono Shel Olam Kolu V'Yadol V'Nechad Dat Shkol Echad V'Echad." You know the mind of every person, and every person is different from each other. Mona Aleihem Manik, appoint a manik she'soivel kol echad ve'echad lefi da'atoi. You must put someone, and I don't know how to translate the word soivel best in this context, but someone that can bear each and every person according to their das. And Rabbi Glicksberg, sometimes I'd come past and I'd see with a young couple who are totally unaffiliated, totally non-religious, and you would be sitting with them and they would be smiling and you'd be smiling and you'd be sharing a warm moment. So many young couples, I believe, in your portfolio of marriages would have a beautiful interaction with the Beis Din and with a marriage and getting involved in Yiddishkeit through you. And that, of course, translated into everything you did. I had the same feeling every time we spoke. And literally, I'd call you when I was a little bit irritated. I'd call you when I didn't know what to do. I'd call you when I needed some help and I needed a person of a seichel yashar, of a clear mind, someone that was always so reasonable. Many people have spoken about your great accolades in Torah, but I want to say, and I echo the words of my colleagues, that it was that you knew how to speak to every single person. Divrei chachomim benachas nishmoim. You certainly are a man of great wisdom. And Rabbi Glicksberg, I look very forward to our friendship and your advice going on into the future. And Mitzvah Hashem should bless you with the Teischem Shalom. You and your family during this crazy time that we're living in should be blessed. And I've got no doubt that you're going to continue leading from the front and being a great light to every person that comes in contact with you. Thank you so much for everything, and please God, everything should just go well.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Goldstein. And now, finally, from Rav Johnny Altman from the Yeshiva College campus, just to share a few words with us.
Thank you, Chief Rabbi. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. Rabbi Glicksberg, we only spent about a year together because lockdown kind of messed everything up. And during that time, we had so many opportunities to deal with one another. And there are a few things that really strike me. What I learned from you. The first one is the parsha. The beginning of the parsha speaks about mishpachosam, all the families, and really your family is astounding. Your family is outstanding, and you really led them together with Mira in a way that is such an example for all the community. And I'm speaking to you on a much more personal level rather than on a collegiate level as such, because I think that that's a fundamental part of who you are and who you're and what you taught us is how to bring up a Torah-dika family. And a Torah-dika family is not an easy to find commodity in the world today. So firstly, just please God, your family should continue. But we know that the Gemara tells us that when the Talmidim were leaving from Rav Ami, that they gave him a bracha, and they said many things. But one of the things that it says is Olamcha tireh b'chayecha. Olamcha tireh b'chayecha. You should see your world in your life. So Rashi tells us, what does that mean? Kol terachecha timatzei. And as you go out into this new kind of going back into your old world, but obviously, as we know, there's been a lot of momentum from your journey in Eretz Yisrael. Please God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give you that you should find everything that you need. But I think that the Ben Yehoyada quotes the tzlach, and this is really the person that you are, that you have these shining eyes and a smile whenever you speak Torah. And the Ben Yehoyada says that, what does it mean? And I think you are the epitome of that there is simcha gedola v'atzuma in every single thing you do in avodas Hashem, and that's something that all your colleagues have learned from. It's always with a smile, always but definitely more. It's always wonderful, and please God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give you those two brachas that you should show for all your find everything that you need, and also you should continue.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi Altman. Rabbi Weinberg, should we try again? I would love to hear from you. Let's give this another try. Rabbi Weinberg, do you want to join us again? Let's try. Rabbi Weinberg?
It is? Okay. You hear me now?
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Shekoyach. I wasn't sure whether this is Befonov or Shaloi Befonov, whether I could say Kol Shvochai or Mikta Shvochai. So Mashgocha Protis, since we cut out, it's clearly Shaloi Befonov, so we're not restricted. Various things. I just want to state, Shlomo, Tzadli Olecha, I will miss you greatly. Together with the whole Kehila, especially the Mizrahi campus, but generally town. A little myth. Chazal tell us that when Diva Pona Hadora. Now, Chazal don't just talk in militzes. There's the Hoidon, there's the Divon, there's the Hadora. I'll focus on the one, the Hoido. What does Hoido mean? Pona Hoido. We're coming from Shivos to Betamas. Shviras Haluchas was an advantage in these Luchas Shnias over the Luchas Orishonis was that Taki in the Luchas Shnias Moshe Rabbeinu had the Karnei HaHoid. So there's, I think, a fairly well-known idea that Chazal say, Mehechon Hoyolo LeMoshe Karnei HaHoid. Where did he get it from? So, Nishtayir Dioi Bekulmus, it was the Kulmus with which Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Torah. There was a little bit of ink. He passed the ink over his face. And from that, his face shone. Why is there extra ink? Bidei Adam, Ef Shalatamtum, Bidei Shomayim, Ef Shalatamtum. HaKadosh Baruch Hu surely knew exactly. But clearly there was something supposed to be written there which wasn't. And that's why there was ink. What was meant to be written? So Moshe Rabbeinu said, Bim ayin, ba'atoim tutistochatosom, if Hashem forgives Eden for the Egel good, V'im ayin, mecheinin tzadik apil al t'nai amiskayim. So Moshe Rabbeinu's name was erased from a section of the Torah, the Balaturim said that Pasha Tirtava. If Moshe Rabbeinu's name is erased, and there's extra ink, that the ink which gave Moshe Rabbeinu the Karnei eingestellt when he stood up for Eden in such a way that he was ready to be Mechenino, which is so precious to Moshe Rabbeinu, Nikras al Shmoi, and he's ready to say, take me out of this, unless you forgive it. On behalf of Eden, that's what got Moshe Rabbeinu the Karnei HaHoid. Now, I know that there were various things about your stay here. For starters, the very fact that you came here, as was mentioned before, was already an act of Mesiras Nefesh. But there were various things along those 6 years where you put the benefit of the tzibur ahead of your own. It stand in your way, you carried on, you cared for the olam more than you were protective of yourself and your position. And that's what gives you the Karnei HaHoid. Karnei HaHoid are not only for yourself, but they're meant to be radiating all around you. But nevertheless, wherever you go, that care and concern and devotion to others, everybody, may it continue to shine for you and for your wife, for your Torah all the time that you were here. Your children, just by being who they were a symbol of Ahavas Torah and inspired those around us. So I will sorely miss you. I'm sure everybody will sorely miss you. May the Eibishter help that we see each other soon with the Geula Shlema.
Thank you, Rabbi Weinberg. And then just before handing over to Rabbi Glicksberg to respond, and we'll close with that, with Rabbi Glicksberg's response. I just wanted to just say from my own perspective, a real sense of sadness in losing such a close friend to our proximity here. That, but on the other hand, we know, Rabbi Shlomo, that the friendship, I know personally our friendship will continue across all of the borders into Eretz Yisrael. I know your friendship and connection with all of the Rabbonim will continue. And if I may say, I think that the uniqueness of Rabbi Shlomo is really this approach of on the one hand being a tremendous Talmid Chacham, of tremendous depth and understanding of halacha and hekef, both ba'amkus and behekef, but combining that with a very deep rachmanis and compassion for people, and that's such an important combination, because the role of a Dayan, the role of a posek is to bring halacha to Am Yisrael and to allow Am Yisrael to participate in halacha and to fulfill the Ratzon Hashem, and it's to help them in that process, and that can only be done with deep rachmanis. Needs to be done with of course we never compromise one sif in Shulchan Aruch, but Hashem, we see this as the direction. We know that the halacha is full of this. Chasa HaTorah Mamonim Shel Yisrael. There's a concept of tsar, the concept of hefsed merubah, concept of shasad chak. This is the halacha is full of it. The compassion of the halacha is felt throughout the Shulchan Aruch and Poskim and Noise Kalim and going all the way back to the Shas. It's full of it, to the extent that we know that, you know, when the Shas refers to the Torah, it calls it Rahmana. Rav Mordechai Gifter makes the point, which I heard from my Rabbi, from Rabbi Goldfein of blessed memory, that Rahmana, the fact that the Gemara calls the Chumash Rahmana is a reflection that in its essence it is a statement of the Rahmanas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Rahmanas Chasa HaTorah, the Rahmanas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Rahmanas and love for Am Yisrael permeates all of Shas, permeates all of Poskim. And Rabbi Glicksberg, you have been a personification of the combination of Amkus and Hekef in Halacha, but bringing a tremendous heart and compassion and Rahmanas for Klal Yisrael. And so for that, we pay tribute to you and are grateful to you for what you have done in the Beis Din, what you've done on the Yeshiva College campus. And if I may say one last thing, you know what? We also have a tremendous Hakaras HaTov to you, Rabbi Glicksberg. And that is, you have shown us how special the South African Jewish community is. Because, you know, sometimes you're inside a community, so we can take it for granted. We can forget how special our community is. But Reb Shlomo, whenever I think about the community, and if I have a moment of doubt about our community and its beauty and its incredible qualities, I think of the fact that you, Reb Shlomo, came all the way from Eretz Yisrael. You left a thriving shul in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, a thriving position in an educational platforms in Eretz Yisrael, and you came all the way to the southern tip of Africa because you saw in this community beautiful things. You saw the Midas Tovus, you saw the Avas HaTorah, you saw the Achdus, you saw all of these things, and you uprooted your family, young kids, your Rebbitzin, moved an entire family all the way to the southern tip of Africa because you saw the beauty of this community. And we know that you leave with a heavy heart, and we know that your heart is with us, and that, you know, maybe if it would be totally up to you, you would continue. But your family is pulling you, And Eretz Yisrael is pulling you, and that's beautiful, and there's great things to do for Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. But you love, and I'm not, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've shown us through your actions that you see the beauty of this community. And I think for all of us as Rabbonim, that is an important limud haskell that we need to take. We living with our kehillah all the time. We can sometimes forget how special it is. In the trenches, when we're dealing with people and complexity and politics and faribbles and all those kinds of things, we can sometimes forget what a tremendous chus it is to serve a community of this kind of special techunas. And Reb Shlomo, we're grateful to you for that. Thank you for your learning. Thank you for your rachmanis. Thank you for your friendship. And thank you for showing us and reminding us what a beautiful kehillah we have here. And with that, Rabbi Glicksberg, hand over to you to close this morning and to share your words with Rabbonim.
Whoa. Dear Chief Rabbi, thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you for your friendship. And dear Dayanim, friends, honored rabbis, I'm humbled. And to tell you the truth, I think the expectation from a Ben Torah to say, no, you shouldn't have, and I don't really need it. But I'm telling you humbly and honestly, thank you very much, because I really needed it. And, because I came, Avzikri mentioned that I came from academic world. So, sometimes when you come to a conference, when you give a lecture in a conference, and I heard it a few times, that the chairman, that the chairman of the conference, he gives you introduction and speaks kindly about you. And then the lecturer started his lecture and he said, may God forgive you for exaggerating, but may God forgive me for enjoying it. So thank you, rabbis. So may God forgive me for enjoying it. And I felt that I really need a closure. I gave when I came here 6 years ago, it was 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. 3 days of Rosh Hashanah, 3 days of Sukkot, 3 days of Rosh Hashanah, without knowing English, just to give some amount of droshes. I spoke about the closure. And because we're very close to Rosh Hashanah, you can use it, you can consider it as a chochmei drush. The famous story the Shlomo Zalman Kahana brings, and 2 elders meet each other every year in the cemetery before Rosh Hashanah. Reb Tzvi and Reb Chaim, 2 Mekubolim. And Reb Tzvi meets Reb Chaim, says, Reb Chaim, what are you doing here? In the cemetery before Rosh Hashanah. So Reb Tzvi, what do you mean? Every year. I've been doing it for years. Every year I go to the cemetery and I take the stone of the previous year and I write it. One side I write Tafshin Pei, and the other side I write Po Nikva, or he buried, and I buried the last year. But what are you doing here? So Reb Chaim, Reb Tzvi, whatever. Don't you know me? I've been doing it for years. Every year I come after you, and instead of burying the previous year, I'm building the new year. But where's your stone? I brought a stone. You didn't bring a stone. He said, every year, when you come to the cemetery with your stone, and you write here, HB, he buried, Tafshin Pei, I take the same stone and just flip it over and write HB, here build, and I'm building the next year. There's no way to start something new without I wouldn't say burying, but I said the closure. The closure is so important. Last week, when I understood that I'm going, I couldn't sleep, as the chief rabbi said. So difficult for me to part from the community, to part from the Dayanim, to part from the Beis Din. And I went to the shul to take my books. I entered the shul. The shul was empty, dusty, so sad. And I asked myself, if that's the way I'm going to part from my chaverim here. I'm so happy for the opportunity. Honored rabbis, kasha alai predatchem. So difficult for me. It was so difficult. I took a decision in a blink to come here. And it took me 2 years to take the decision to come back. And, I got a phone call 2 weeks ago from someone about proof of Jewishness. It was one of the deserted communities in South Africa. And I gave him a lecture about, the history of the community, the rabbis, the names of the Gaboim. So how many years, if you're born in South Africa, I never born in South Africa, I feel as if I was always here. So let me take you shortly, 6 years ago, and maybe 6 years and a bit. And I would like to echo the word of the chief rabbi about how special is the community, how special the rabbinate here. and the Beis Din here. And it's a great chizuk for me as a closure, but please God, it will be a chizuk for you. So six years ago, before that, I never heard about South Africa. Yes, we heard about, the game reserves, the apartheid. I never heard about the Jewish community in South Africa. At that time, as the chief Rabbi mentioned, I was the Rebbe of Nitzanim. It was a very big community, apparently the biggest in Jerusalem. And I was, everything was apparently perfect. I have a full position in a college, the head of second degree department, head of this and head of this, teaching second degree into a college history. I taught in the Department of Law in Bar-Ilan University. I wrote books. I'm saying apparently everything was perfect. But for me, it was boring, and I felt, and it was meaningless. And then I got a phone call that the university wants to promote me as a professor. They said, look, you have all of the publications, but we've never been to Chutz La'aretz. And we need to understand, I never been to Chutz La'aretz. My first time outside of Israel when I was 30, for a few days to meet my wife's grandmother in Schonfer Square in Stafford Hill. And that was the first time for a few days. The second time was here. So you need to go for sabbatical in Chutz La'aretz. So I sent a proposal to Harvard University. We were planning to go there. And then we sat together, my wife and myself, and we tried to see in Boston which is the moistest to send the kids. And I told my wife, if we're going to Chutz La'aretz, let's do shlichut. We always wanted to do shlichut. We also wanted to do something real, something meaningful. And then my father-in-law sent me a clip about the first Shabbos project. That was the first thing that I saw about South Africa. We sat together, my wife and myself, next to the computer, with tears in our eyes, to see about the Shabbos project in South Africa. About 90% of the Jewish community decided to keep Shabbos. I was so touched. I was so touched. And I told my wife, I want to be part of it. We came to South Africa. And by the way, interestingly enough, and I saw it b'shirt, you need to understand, I got 2 phone calls, one next to the other. In fact, I heard the beep. It's like I spoke to someone and I heard someone else trying to phone me. One phone call was for Rav Tabachnik. Funny enough, he's the executive, he was the chief rabbi of Mexico, and he's the executive director of Ariel Institution, which I'm joining in soon. And the other one was Zev Schwartz, Torah Mitzion. 2 people at the same time offering me something in South Africa, and I never heard before. So one is Rav Tabachnik, look, Rav Perez is leaving, they're looking for a rabbi to Mizrahi community to be the senior rabbi there, but you need 2 conditions. One, you need to speak English. You don't. And the second, you need to sign for 5 years. So look, it's not for me. I don't speak English, and I can't sign 5 years. I have a commitment to go back to my shul, to go back to all of my positions. And then the second call from Zev Schwartz or Ramitzion, there's a call day, they're looking call it. You can go for 1 year, and you don't need to know English. I decided to take it. And I came here. I came to South Africa, to the most dangerous place. That's what we heard in Israel. And I remember the first robot. We heard that you can't stop next to robots in South Africa because they're going to be hijacked. I remember the first robot. I'm waiting. I'm waiting something bad to happen. Nothing happened. We moved to the next one, nothing happened. Within 24 hours, I found myself in Mushlaga in the Rabbinica conference. I left my family here in the most dangerous place in the world. And I went to I was told that there's a special Rabbinica conference. It takes place once a year in Umschlange. Umschlange sounds like a Yiddish word. Let's go. So I came to Umschlange, and I met Rav Zikri there, and I met the chief rabbi there, and I was blown away to see the rabbinate here. I'm saying this is something that, and again, I would like to echo the words of the chief rabbi, something that people don't understand. There's no such a thing in the world. Seeing 70 rabbis sitting together, I'm saying you have Mizrahi and Lubavitch and Litvin. Unbelievable. I have close friendship with different rabbis here. We sat together in different forms. And you know what? In Israel, even in Mizrahi, you have 4 different groups that no one speaks to each other. And here you have all of the rabbis together. It was unbelievable to see the first experience. And yes, you know what, something, and I think so many people in the world should be inspired by just hearing the phenomenon of the South African rabbinate. I'm saying I was sitting with the Vad Rabbonim of JME, with the senior Rabbonim of the community, Rav Orbach, Rav Zalzer, Rav Goner. We spoke about, I heard, and I mentioned so many times, the Shonor about JME. We sat together, we spoke together, we explained each other. We didn't have disagreements. I would like to speak about the Beis Din. It's unbelievable to hear. This is something that so many people need to hear. When you sit together, when you get to know each other, no disagreements. You understand each other, and you can. I think it's an unbelievable experience. Look, the experience of being part of the Beis Din. Look, it was a privilege. It was such a privilege to be part. And I remember Rav Kurtzak spoke to me about it. The chief Rebbe spoke about it. And yes, you mentioned Al Chavrusa. You know, I think in the same week you asked me to learn the Chavrusa. I remember the sentence. Look, the two rabbi doctor in this shtot. He didn't mention Rav Zikri. Rav Zikri was in Durban. The two rabbi doctors, let's learn Chavruta. You know, from the beginning of the week, I was waiting to our Chavrusa, 2 hours of Chavrusa. We wrote, I published the article that we wrote together in my book. I love my books and I love my articles, but from the 20 articles that I published, I really love this article about Pshara. And I think it changed the Beis Din completely to differentiate between mediation and arbitration based on our research, based on our learning. It's incredible. Let me tell you something about the Beis Din and the Dayanim, because I'm using my phones and I can't see everybody. So look, for my colleagues, the Dayanim, and for the border community, the Beis Din is very, very special. It was a privilege to be part. And the Beis Din is special in so many ways. First of all, unbelievable Tamidei Chachomim. I'm saying so much knowledge and experience. Reb David with his knowledge, Rabbi Yosef Smith comes with a huge knowledge and a special ability to engage with people. Reb Gidon with his knowledge, experience, and Chochmas HaChaim, and sensitivity. Everybody mentions sensitivity. I think something that we, I won't say change the Beis Din, but we put the emphasis on sensitivity when you sit with people. And Reb Gidon, we sat together on different occasions, and I saw the effort to be sensitive. So it's beyond knowledge, it's beyond godless in the Torah, just to be sensitive. And Heve mekabel kol adam b'sever panim efot, always say that the Mishnah says, Heve mekabel kol adam b'sever panim efot. Who said it? Hillel or Shammai? Apparently Hillel, because he was open. No, Shammai said it. If you want to be machmir halacha, at least you need to be sensitive. Now, the Beis Din is incredible. It's beyond knowledge and experience. I think something that everybody sees is the variety. When you have a Beis Din, I'm not sure you can find a similar Beis Din in the world. When you have the variety, the different representatives of different communities, this is something that everybody can see. But not many people know about the work, the teamwork together. And you know what? Yes, I think something that people don't know, that we never had any disagreement about Ashkofa. And Dayanim, you can unmute yourself to correct me if I'm wrong. We never, ever had any disagreement about Ashkofa. Yes, we have disagreements. And in most of the times, we convinced each other, this is something very special in the Beis Din, that we take decisions together. And if we have here and there, we have disagreements, we voted, but about Ashkofa, never, ever. And this is something the community doesn't understand. I remember myself a few times in the mikveh, when you have the convert, and you ask him a question, will be behind the door, will you keep Shabbos? He says, yes. Will you keep Kashrus? Yes. Will you keep Taras Mishpacha? Yes. Will you keep the festival? Yes. I used to add, will you keep the laws of Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim? He said, what? Never mind. But I'm saying, I was the only one that sneaks something about Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yerushalayim. We never had disagreements about Ashkofa. And I think it's incredible and can inspire so many communities. Rabbis, Chaverim, sit together with mutual appreciation. And it was an unbelievable experience. I'm so happy, Chief Rabbi, that you offered me to be part of the Beis Din. And I think working with you and working with the Beis Din, you know, someone asked me, what is the highlight? The highlight is to be challenged. I remember the first challenges that Rav Kurtzak told me and the way he guided me in the very beginning. I remember yes, to be challenged in very complicated and sophisticated halachic discussions. Yes, but if I need to mention the highlight, as you said, the highlight is to sit with the couples when they come to the Beis Din. Different couples. I think I met every couple that came to got married. It's a privilege. So sitting with them, understanding them, smiling to them, and make sure that the experience of coming to the Beis Din will be positive, and to give them chizuk, and to be kind. I think if I need to mention something special about my involvement in the Beis Din, that was that. The last thing, you know, I mentioned the Dayanim, and I mentioned the uniqueness of the Beis Din. You know, just I can't see the Dayan Badil, but this is something that happens in South Africa and can't happen anywhere. Very good friends working together for a good few years and learning from each other. I grew up in Petach Tikva from a very Mizrahi background. He grew up in Stamford Hill, or I don't know where, so something bad like this. And this is South Africa. This is the beauty of South Africa. And I would like just to give you a bracha. Rav Kurztag, of course, that taught me so many things. They taught me, you know, the fact that we did something for 50 years doesn't say that we need to do it for another 50 years. And find solution to say, no, I also can say, this is something that I'm going to take with me. Chief Rabbi, thank you for everything. And as I say, we are good friends. And thank you for learning with me. And I was the first one to support you in most of the things. And I was the first one to tell you, Rabbi, I disagree with you. And I think it's incredible. And Odom Gordon knows to accept that to hear a different opinion, and you embraced it. And I think this is part of your godless. So I thank you for everything, and thank you for allowing me to be your friend. And we're going to carry on being friends, and I'm going to support you, and as far as I can. As Rav Zikri said, I'm very happy to be the representative. I have close gesture to the chief rabbi, and they phone me, I think sometimes twice a week about the question about South Africa. I'm very happy to support you and to support the chief rabbi office and the rabbinate, and to the Dayanim. I always admired you. I mentioned Dayan Badil, I mentioned Dayan Smith, I mentioned Dayan Fox. Thank you for the opportunity. Look, I stopped working here, but I'm not stopping to serve the community. This is the message for you. Please let me carry on serving the community from Israel. And it was a great, great privilege for me. Honored rabbis, keep up the good work up to Mashiach, and some say even after. Keep up the good work and the Kiddush Hashem. And at the moment, I'm not going to be a community rabbi. But if I'll be a community rabbi, one day, I would like to duplicate the model of the rabbinate here in South Africa. Thank you so, so much for everything, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Glicksberg. Thank you all for being part of today. Thank you for those who shared their divrei chizuk and haracha. Thank you, Rabbi Glicksberg. May Hashem bless you and your rebbetzin and your children with bracha and nachas and hatzlacha going forward, for the sake of all of Klal Yisrael, and may Hashem bless us all. God bless you, everybody, and thank you so much for being part of today. It was memorable and special for each and every single one of us. God bless you all.
Thank you very much.
Sure.